Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Today, we've got a great program, a very special program for the community here at Southern California and the creator community at large. The Islamic Shura Council of Southern California is working in collaboration with Cornerstone Law Office, and we're looking to host the second round of the Paycheck Protection Program, specifically geared for nonprofit organizations. The topics that will be discussed and things that would be shared today would be: what are the eligibility requirements? 2, how to ensure your application is approved, and then 3, when and how to apply for forgiveness, and etc. To take not too much time, I would like to go ahead and introduce the speakers that we have with us today. We've got Ms. Lisa Nguyen, who is the founder and CEO of SmartBean. And then also we've got Brother Hani Amr, who is the founding member of Cornerstone Law. Please get started.
Thank you, Brother Walid.
Thank you, Wali. So, Hani.
You can begin, Lisa, and then I'll just jump in every once in a while.
All right, sounds good. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me and sharing this time with me. We are in January, so technically we're still in the new year. So I just want to wish everybody a peaceful and joyful 2021. Today, we are going to talk about the second round of the Paycheck Protection Program, which was passed, actually was signed into bill, into law on December 27, 2020. And the SBA has been hard working at this to establish guidelines and launch the program. In fact, they did that yesterday they did it this week for the smaller banks, underserved community, minorities. They have not rolled it out for the rest of us yet. They will be doing that starting next week on Tuesday. So it is very timely that we are talking about this right now. There's some great thing on this second round that is relating to the nonprofit. So we're going to go into that as well. So I'm really looking forward to the next, I don't know how long it's going to take. It just depends on how many questions Hani has for me. But if I could get the presentation, if you can share the presentation, we'll go over the agenda. Thank you so much. So we're looking at, we can stop and go just stop me anytime to ask any question, Hani. But I would like to give like an overview of the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, some eligibility requirements. There are a few differences from last round versus this round. Also the application process, which is really important. I think that if you are going to spend time to apply for this, you want to make sure that you do it right so that you can get the loans. And then some tracking tips that we have. Being a bookkeeper, tracking numbers is basically my specialty. So I just want to share some tips with you. And then lastly, of course, the nice thing about the Paycheck Protection Program is if you use it correctly, the full amount can be forgiven. So essentially, it is like a grant. If you use it correctly, a grant, you don't pay taxes on it and you don't have to pay it back. So let's just get right into it. The overview of the Paycheck Protection Program. So how do there you go, you did it, thank you. Got it. So the Paycheck Protection Program is basically a federal stimulus program to help small businesses. So as you know, since the pandemic happened, there were a couple big relief package that was passed. The first one that came out right away was last year in March, and in that was the CARES Act. It was the CARES Act, and in that was the first round of the Paycheck Protection Program, and the amount, there was $522 billion that was allocated for the PPP. Now, the second round, like I mentioned, was passed, was signed into bill on December 27 of 2020, and of that, it was 1.2 or 1.3 trillion dollars as the big combination of two bill, and then just the Economic Aid Act was $900 billion. And then of that amount, $284 billion was for the Paycheck Protection Program. So I put both numbers on here just so that we can see a perspective of this round, the money is not as much as the last round. With that said, we want to get you ready, get your application ready right now so that as soon as the banks start accepting it, or the SBA start accepting the application, you are in there because you don't want to be in the situation like they did last time when they ran out of money. Right now, I know a couple of the banks have said that they're accepting application, but it's all just pre-application. The SBA does not accept them yet until next Tuesday for the popular populations of businesses. And then the second thing I want to address in regards to PPP is, like I say, it is a forgivable loan if we use it correctly. So technically, you can look at it like a grant, but let's say for whatever reason you got the loan and you're unable to spend it the way the government wanted you to, or intent for you to spend it, and so you owe the money, not the full amount was forgiven, then the loan is a 2 years terms loan at 1% interest rate. Another thing I want to point out that I don't know if a lot of people are aware or taking advantage of this is, I know that last year when all this first happened, there was an economic injury disaster loan, which was you applied it directly with the SBA. They based on your revenue and they give you a loan amount, and some of you took advantage of it. Some of you weren't sure what they were, so you got it, but now you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I want to use this loan, or it is a 30 years loan at 3.75% interest, which is a really good loan for business. But if you want to refinance that EIDL loan into the second round of the Paycheck Protection Program, you can. Because think about it, if you're going to use that money within the next 2 years, right? The terms is 2 years. You can pay back in 2 years. It's only 1% interest rate versus the other one at 3.75%. So that's something to think about. The loan amount for this round, though, cannot be, the loan amount, the way it's calculated, as you probably already are aware, is they figure out the average monthly payroll, and then they time it by 2.5 times to determine your loan amount. So let's say your annual payroll is $120,000. That means that every month, your average monthly expense for payroll is $10,000. So then you're qualifying for $25,000 in Paycheck Protection Program loans, forgivable loans. Okay. Now, for industry that got hit a lot harder, like the accommodations or food industry, the loan amount, it can be multiplied by 3.5 versus 2.5. So you get a bigger loan amount if you were in the accommodation or food industry. How they calculate the monthly payroll expenses, they also broaden that a lot on the second round. So things like not only your salary, but employer tax, the taxes that the employer pays for the employee is also count as payroll expenses. Any health insurance benefit that you pay for the employees, also payroll expenses. Any retirement contribution from the employer contributing for the employees also count as payroll expenses. Taxable income or not. So this one is a big one. It's a big win for the small business or business in general who take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program, is that with this last bill that was passed, they including there that the IRS cannot consider the PPP loan amount as, they cannot tax it. It's not an income taxable income. And also the expenses that you use to get the forgiveness, to apply for forgiveness. So we'll talk about forgiveness application in a little bit, and I'll talk about what are the different requirements. But basically, you have to be able to demonstrate to the government that you spend this money correctly in your business. So all those expenses you have to show. Well, initially, the IRS said those expenses that you already used to claim for PPP, you cannot now deduct it as a business expense, right? Because someone else already paid for that expense for you. You pay for that based on the Paycheck Protection Program loan. Well, with the new bill that they passed, they actually said that expenses are tax deductible. So it's a huge, huge win. So all you need to know in this case is really when you file your tax returns, everything is normal, exclude out the Paycheck Protection Program loan amount, not taxable, and the expenses that the business incurred is still tax deductible. So it's a wonderful thing. From the state though, it's different from state to state, right, honey? We talk about this where California, I have a map on here. I actually took that from the SBA.gov website. This is showing kind of a trend of how states have been adapting or conforming to IRS rulings. As you can see, California in the yellow state, and those are the states that does not like to follow what the IRS have to say. So as of right now, California is saying, okay, fine, Paycheck Protection Program loan is not income taxable, but the deductions that you use to apply for forgiveness, those are not tax deductible. You cannot deduct though as business expense. So we're waiting to see, we're fighting it. Hopefully California will come around, but you really should consult with your CPA or tax filer on your individual state and see what's going on there. I think next is we are going to talk about eligibility. So this is important. For the second round, there is a new requirement that the business have to demonstrate that they have been affected by the pandemic in terms of their sales and their revenue. So their gross receipt. So it needs to demonstrate that they have, in 2020, their gross receipts or their revenue has to be at least 25% or less than in 2019. They have to demonstrate there's a reduction in sales, receipts, in gross revenue, and it could be for the whole year. So you can look at the whole year of 2020 and say, hey, for the whole year, I'm 25% or less than what I revenue last year in 2019. Or you can pick any of the quarter in 2020 and compare that to the previous year. So let's say on the second quarter of 2020 is when all of us have just been, our world turned upside down because of the pandemic, stay at home order, lockdown, and all that good stuff. Many businesses might want to look at second quarter or third quarter and see how your business was affected by it compared to the same period of last year. The second round also put a lot of focus on smaller businesses, micro businesses, underserved community. And that is why the SBA opened their PPP2 application this week for the minorities, for the underserved community, that starting this first before they get to the rest of the population. They actually dedicate $25 billion specifically to the smaller credit union, the smaller underserved community. So not only that, the requirement for companies to be able to get this loan on the second draw, it's the second draw of the PPP, is they have to have less than 300 employees. On the first round, they can have up to 500 employees. On this round, they can only have up to 300 employees, affiliated companies though. So for nonprofits, for example, if you control multiple nonprofits, it's going to count the total employees of all the nonprofits or the organization that you control as the number of employees. So they need to still be less than 300 employees. Same with regular business. If you have multiple companies and you are a majority owner of the company, they are going to want to count the total employees from all across organizations.
And Lisa, I want to stop you here. I just want to kind of on this, because this is important. So basically, what if, let's say, for example, there's the Islamic, center that also has a school. It's a separate entity, but also has a school in the same building, for example. Now you count, and there is some control. Well, maybe it'll be great to know a little bit more. What does it mean by control? But basically, how would you, is that what you're talking about? You would still include the school basically as part of the employees and count them?
So it's counting the people on payroll, right? So you might, especially for nonprofit, you might have a ton of people that are involved, that volunteers, that work for free. You don't get paid through on payroll through the nonprofit. It's not counting. They're not looking at that. So typically nonprofit, depending on the side, we can look at it. But when you apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, if you're a nonprofit, we need that one person that can be the one that represents, the one that sign all the legal documents for the nonprofit to be applying for it. And so if that same person is also representing and doing the same thing for multiple organizations, they're going to look at that as affiliated groups, companies, or non-profit organizations, and they're going to want to count them together. Okay. And then very important, I know this is heartbroken, but there's a lot of business that start out a startup, right, for 2020. Unfortunately, you must be in business prior to February 2020 in order to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. I've seen some date floating around there that you need to be in business prior to March 2020. So, you know, if you have starting business in February 2020 sometime, let's take a look at it. Let's just apply for it and see what they say, but should be around that time or prior.
And this answer is one of the questions that we received. Basically, the question is, for self-employed people and businesses that started last year, can we apply for this loan? As you mentioned, yes, you can, because that means we started in 2019.
Yes. So I would thank you for bringing that up, Hani, because I want to verify that, you know, we talk about the Paycheck Protection Program, right? The name in itself is telling you that the point of this program is for job retention, right? They want to keep people employed. So because of the focus on that, a lot of self-employed people, sole proprietor, people who receive 1099s count themselves out of the first round. They didn't apply for it because I don't have employees, I don't have a regular payroll, you know, I'm not qualified, but you do. You are an employee of your own company, right? So to keep you in business is in the best interest of all of us. And so therefore, yes, you are qualified. Please make sure if you didn't do it first time, this time, if your business has been affected, by all means, please looking at applying for it. And what they do is they look at your Schedule C numbers. So when you have a business and you are a sole proprietor, you file your business numbers on the Schedule C. And so you look at line 31 of the Schedule C, see what that amount is. So if that amount is a positive number, that means that you made money. So they count that as your income for the year. And then you divide it by 12 and then times 2.5. That would be the loan amount that you can apply for.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I think next we are going to talk about, what are we talking about here? Okay, eligibility requirements for nonprofits. So in round one, the nonprofit type that could qualify for round one was 501c3, right? So those are organizations that help for the nonprofit for the benefit of the populations of everybody. On round two, they actually broaden that requirements. And so now if you are a 501c6, which like a Chamber of Commerce or trade organization where you get together, have a nonprofit and promote your trades, promote business networking like a Chamber of Commerce, those are 501c6, can now apply. Housing cooperative, destination marketing organizations. I have to look this up. I'm like, what is destination marketing organizations? You know what that is, honey?
No, I'm confused about it too. I was just, but
yeah.
We can look up if anybody has any questions about that, and we can look it up.
Well, it is, I did look it up, just in case someone asks. Okay. It is for, let's say, you know, I know a couple years ago you went to Jordan, right? And so it's for organizations that it's promoting a destination. So let's say, you know, we have people here and they're like, oh, you know, you need to learn, you need to go to Jordan because of A, B, C, and D. They're a great country, you know, nice, good-looking people, whatever that is, right? Those are called destination marketing organizations. So they are eligible for this round.
Wow.
And then,
yeah. Did the research on that. I mean, they really thought it out. And that's
yeah, so they really broaden it. They really, you know, the point is now more in like helping us, helping the economy. And we know that the soul of the country is the middle class, right? The small business owner. So I'm really hoping that you guys can take advantage of this and reach out to me if you have any question at all. I'm sure we'll share my information. I'm happy to be able to help with that. And of course, you know, any other 501c2. So, okay, so important application process, right? The first round, this was just a nightmare because a lot of people get shut out because big banks are the only people, it seems like, that can have access to the funds and lending and issues these loans. So there was a lot of people that could turn away. So if you were one of those people, I'm so sorry. And the good news is you can apply for it now. So even though PPP2, if you have never had a Paycheck Protection Program, you will be considered as the first time, you know, applying for this program. And because this is your first time for the first round, you don't have to have the qualification of having the 25% reduced in revenue. Does that make sense? So if this is your first time, you have a little bit more room in terms of your qualification for it. This time around also, it's wonderful because there are a lot more lenders out there that can work with you. So like for fintech, you know, traditional lenders, we know the Wells Fargo, the Chase, the Bank of America, credit unions. But there's also some fintech lenders such as On Deck, Cabbage, Biz2Credit, Intuit, PayPal, Bluevine. I know there's a ton of them out there. And I know some of you have had experience and you know, was successfully able to use them for the last round, which was wonderful. In the fintech lenders, if you guys need help with that, anytime you see on the presentation, the bean, the yellow guy, the bean guy, that is our company logo. And if you see that guy, I don't know if it's a male or female yet, we haven't decided, but that means that we can assist. So we are in the space of the fintech company. If you need help with applying for the loans and make sure that it gets funded, and then also tracking the loans, tracking your expenses so that we can apply for forgiveness for you, we can help you through the whole process from A to Z. So just reach out to us, let us know what we can help you with. But in terms, if I can go back to, yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, let us know if you need any help, you have any trouble at all. My recommendation though is if you have an existing relationship with a banker who helped you with the first round and they are returning your call, then just go with that person, you know, because they probably already have a lot of your information, make the whole process easier for you. But if they're not returning your call, or if the first round was such a nightmare, then reach out to us and they'll be happy to help you. Tracking tip, important, right? So first we make sure we're eligible, we are able to apply for the loans. Now we got the money in our bank. We need to make sure that we spend it correctly so that 100% of the amount is forgiven. So very, very rare. In fact, I have not seen any of my clients who have had to not have 100% forgiven. So let's look at that. So in terms of tracking tips, we want to make sure that the requirement that they have is at least 60% of the loan amount was spent on payroll expenses. Now, like I mentioned earlier, payroll expenses, they really have broadened what's included in payroll expenses. So having a good bookkeeping, having a good payroll company to track all these expenses. I know some of you guys use payroll company, but you might not have them track your health insurance expenses, right? Like a lot of time, if you pay for your employees the full amount of health insurance premium, or you they pay a small percentage and the company pays the rest of it. You don't have that on payroll reports. And so I've seen people miss out on one, calculating for the loan, they're excluding those, and then also calculating forgiveness, they forget about those. So make sure you have a good accounting system, track those numbers. So make sure at least 60% of the loan amount was spent on payroll expenses. And then the other 40% can be spent on rent, utilities, mortgage interest, right? If you have a business and you own the building, the interest that you pay on the mortgage is also eligible expenses. Now, with the second round, they are also opening up again. They make it even easier to qualify for forgiveness, is that any operational expense in general. So things like, you know, cloud computing, like software that you use, Microsoft Office, for example, subscription that you use, or, you know, Google Enterprise, Adobe. I mean, it's small money, but it adds up, right? So any other expenses, QuickBooks, let's say you use QuickBooks Online for software accounting, that is a tax, that amount, that expense can be counted for Paycheck Protection Program forgiveness expenses. If you hire an accountant to help you with this loan process, for example, like then you can, that whatever, you know, if we charge you anything, or even our service for bookkeeping, for example, that can also be included as an expense that can be forgiven through the Paycheck Protection Program. So bookkeeping tips on that is, don't go, you know, and create a whole category called Paycheck Protection Program expenses. Because like I said, remember the IRS said those expenses can still be a business deductible expense. So you don't want to just create a separate categories, put all the expenses in there, and then how you're going to count that for when you file your taxes. It's going to look kind of weird on your profit and loss returns. So instead of doing that, just tag the eligible expenses. So I think on all the accounting software, at least with QuickBooks, I know you can tag an expense or an income and just call it like PPP2, for example. And then you can run a report and see where you're at in terms of spending that money. Keep all the receipts. Now, let me go back to that. If you have a good bookkeeper, the bookkeeper does that for you. You don't have to worry about it, okay? But and the most important thing though is keeping receipts. I will talk about this in the next slide when we get there, but just wanted to tell you that even though for some of you who will be eligible to file the forgiveness on the 3508S, 3508 small business S, the SBA technically don't ask for supporting documents, right? You need to have it, and your lender might ask you for it, but the SBA don't need it from you. They just need your certification that you spend it and that you have the receipts. So it's important to still keep the receipts though, because the SBA did say that they will be very diligent about auditing. So make sure you keep all your receipts, and then very important, naming the loan. Okay, so you want to make sure, even though the tax strategies are different, IRS say it's not taxable, the state might say it is. So you want to be able to provide all this information, the loan information, to your tax filer, so that on the profit and loss statement, so that they don't have questions for you, and then you have to go back and forth. And every time they come back and ask you a question, it's a billable hour. So I'm trying to save you some money here. So the best way to do that is when you receive the loan, Paycheck Protection Program loan, it is still a loan until it is forgiven. So you want to make sure that you put it in it needs to show up on your balance sheet as a long-term liability, okay? Because any loans that is out there that is longer than 12 months term is considered long-term. So technically it is a 2-year term loan, so it is a long-term liabilities. Once you get it forgiven, so whatever the portion that was forgiven, that needs to be move out of balance sheets, right? But then I would advise you to put it on your income statement, even though the IRS say they're not going to count it as your business income, you're not getting taxes on it. So, but you still should put it on there at the bottom. Just call it like, no, select the other income, non-primary business income. Okay, so it's separate from your normal gross receipt, your normal business operating income, and name it. Just name it, say PPP forgiveness loan amount, so that your tax filer know what it is, know that this is the amount that was forgiven, because in case the state is taxing you on the business expense, they know that, and so then they can make sure that your tax returns are filed correctly. I know that's really exciting, Henny. I'm quite passionate when it comes to tracking stuff.
I'm just excited that I don't have to do these things because I have you handling it for us, you know. So
that's right. I didn't even have to pay you to say that for me. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, but we did actually get two questions that I'm gonna go over right now. So the second question was, how do you assess your income reduction if you were not in business in 2019? So this is for new businesses, basically.
Yes. So if you have a new business, then you most likely were not able to apply for round one. And if you didn't apply for round one, then you don't have to meet that requirement. That requirement is only for the second draw of the PPP. So I'm hoping that answered your question. Your business do need to be in business prior to February 2020. And then for this round, to calculate your loan amount, they do the 12-month look back. So that's really good. So look it up, make sure you are applying for it, looking into it. And on the previous slide, there's one more thing I want to point out on there, is that you should apply for forgiveness within 10 months after the cover period. Okay, so make sure you do that. So for those of you who got the loan right away when they first came out in, like, you know, April or May, make sure you apply for forgiveness like now, or, you know, at least by the end of February, because if you don't, after that period, the lenders are going to start sending you their bills. You have to start making payments. Okay, so make sure that you try to apply for it now. Once you apply, so the way it works is you submit your forgiveness applications to the lender. They then submit it to the SBA. The SBA have 90 days to review your loan application, and then your forgiveness application, and then they will let you know if it was forgiven and how much it was forgiven. And then at that point, you can then make adjustment in your books and file your returns. The cover period, one more thing that's changed for this round is it can be any time. The covered period is the time period where you can use the loans, right? So it can be any period between 8 weeks to 24 weeks period to spend that money, right? So again, there is no reason why you cannot get 100% of the loan forgiven. It gives you so many ways to spend. As long as you just spend it correctly, you have the time to do that. Yeah, really should do that.
Really, the key is tracking all the everything you spent, because the only way you're going to be able to get the forgiveness is just by organizing and tracking it. And I have another question to ask. They're asking basically, how long is the application process?
Oh, good question. This is, I would say, the best answer I can give you is a little differ from lender to lender, right? So when they receive your application, they do need to review the information, and then they submit it to the SBA. I know the answer. I can't think of it right now. The SBA I think they have 10 days. May I get that person information, and then I can follow up with you? I know I've read it, but I don't know. I can't be sure right now, but I believe the SBA have 10 days to approve or deny your applications. So let me follow up with you on that to be sure. And then they direct deposit into the money into your bank account. So that's that. And then for, and then for loan forgiveness. So we talked about how important it is. Sorry, you guys, I don't know how to turn this off. For loan oh, shoot. Sorry. So loan forgiveness, like I said, it is 100% forgiven if you spend it correctly. So on the first round, if your loan was under $50,000 or less, you can use, if it was under $50,000, you can use Form 3508S. And it's wonderful, and you should be using this form if your lenders make it available. There was also a 3508 easy form. It's not as easy as this S form, so use this form instead. And this form, all they are asking for is for you to certify that you use the money correctly, that you've used at least 60% of the proceeds of the loan to pay for payroll expenses, that you and the rest of it are spent on eligible expenses. And then that's it. You don't have to submit all these backup documents. Now, on the second round, they increased that loan amount to $150,000. If your loan is $150,000 or less, you can use Form 3508 for the second draw of the PPP loan. So it's a good thing. And then let's see, what else do we get in terms of forgiveness? Any questions there?
So far, we're good, actually.
Okay. So I think that's all I got for forgiveness. Oh, one last thing is this. I know, remember I talked about the EIDL, the EIDL loan. Part of that program was the EIDL advance, right? So the EIDL advance is basically a grant. And what the SBA did was they count the number of employees you have, and they give you $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. And they give it to all small businesses, and it was a grant. You don't have to pay back. It's called EIDL Advance, or EIDL Advance. Now, if you receive the advance or the grant, that amount is being subtracted from your Paycheck Protection Program forgiveness amount. So make sure you're aware of that. So if, let's say, you have a PPP loan for $50,000, but you also have gotten $10,000 from EIDL Advance, now your loan forgiveness amount is $40,000. Okay, you still owe the bank $10,000, and it's a 2 years term, 1% interest. So just be aware of that.
No, that's good. And there's also the California relief. Maybe you want to mention, talk about that.
Oh, yes. Well, no one probably will be happy for me to say about this because it was such a disastrous when it was rolled out. So the deadline to apply for it was for the first round was actually yesterday. And I've heard that from my clients that the website crashed. I don't know if you know, Henny. So when they first rolled it out, I believe on December 30th, 2020, a lot of people couldn't access it for days. So long story short on that is this. It is California that is allocating, I believe, $500 million to small business as a grant. And based on your revenue bracket, you can either get $5,000, $15,000, or $25,000 in grant. You have to apply for it, and you have to demonstrate that your business has suffered from the pandemic, from comparing the financial statements from previous year, from 2020 to 2019. So the good news is we have that. The bad news is that it's closed now. The good news, though, is that if you could not get through it this time around, they do have a second round but they have not let anybody know yet, not that I'm aware of when the second round will start. They did have the date on there before, and then they took it off. So I don't know what that means. So my advice, Honey, thank you for bringing it up, is this. If your business has been suffering or have been affected by the COVID-19, the website you should be registered to get news from is SBA.gov, right? And then also the Small Business Development Center. So also go onto the internet, smallbusinessdevelopmentcenter.org, I believe, or Small Business Development Center of America.org. That is the nonprofit organization that is being funded by the federal to help local businesses. And they have great, anytime there's a local grant or anything at all to help small business, whether it's from a nonprofit, the state or local grants, they'll send you information on that. So look that up, register with them to get the newsletter.
Yeah, and we did receive one question too. So how do we know the loan is forgiven?
Oh, the SBA will let you know. So make sure you apply for it, right? Get confirmation that you from your lender that they receive your application. They will forward it to the SBA. The SBA have 90 days to let you know if it was forgiven. So it will be in writing, because you have to sign a promissory note before they gave you that money. So they need to also give you some paperwork to show that it's forgiven.
Yeah, and one thing I want to note that basically, so the 25% reduction has to be from the total revenue from the gross, not out of the net.
Not the net.
Yeah, and one thing that is very helpful, you mentioned last webinar, that you can look at each quarter separately too, and you try to find, whether the first quarter is less. They only need one quarter in 2020 that is less than 2019, and you would qualify as one of the requirements as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you for clarifying that.
No, this is, this has been great. Lots of information. I appreciate it again. I know I received so many emails after our last webinar on Sunday, and you've been great. You've been able to help them. So I hope that a lot of our listeners are able to benefit from this, and inshallah they can reach out to you and try to get their PPP to money or grant, inshallah.
Yep, you need the help. Get it and keep us going. Thank you.
So I think this is it, Brother Wali. I'm not sure if you have any more questions for us.
First and foremost, again, thank you so much for the both of you for the great information that we all received and we all learned. I know I learned a lot too. So something to apply for, for us that have businesses and for those of us that have nonprofit. And I highly encourage the community, and for those that are watching the program or will be watching the program, to please share this informative information with the community and with your friends and neighbors who can benefit from this. Very highly informative program that we have Brother Hani from Cornerstone Law Office, and then also Miss Lisa, who has joined us here. Just before we go, how can they reach you guys? I know, Lisa, you have your information here. So if anybody wants,
told me I should put it on there. So the best way to reach me is just you can call our office directly or go to our website. If you want to email me directly, just for good questions, okay? It's lisa@smartbeaninc.com. So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. And then also another question as well, Brother Hani, one of the questions that we just currently received was, can you both share your contact information? So I know Lisa did, and how about yourself? How can we?
Sure. I'm going to share my link with you right now, a link with you that hopefully you can just share it with the rest of the community. And then you can also reach out our office number.
Okay.
Well, so I shared it with you on the chat box. Hopefully you can share it.
Gotcha.
And any questions that I receive, I'll forward to you, Lisa, and make sure that they're able to reach out to you as well.
Sounds good.
Again, if anybody, folks that do not have any more questions, please remember that you can reach us directly at the Shura Council of Southern California, and we'll go ahead and direct any questions that you may have to either Mr. Hani or Miss Lisa. Thank you so much for giving us your time, guys. It was actually very informative information.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us. It's an honor to be with you and being part of the ShuraTV and one of the programs as well. And whatever
Absolutely.
The community, we're obviously are so excited to do that.
Thank you. We look forward to this, right? We look forward to collaborating, and also want to thank you and your office for being able to put this together, and for Ms. Lisa also to give us your time. And we look forward to doing more programs, inshallah, if that's something that time allows us. And If we can have your guys' expertise, it's much needed for the community. It's very needed, and I can definitely tell you, I'm one person that actually benefits from here, right? And then there's more people that do watch it and that benefit from it as well. So thank you very much.
Alhamdulillah. And with Cornerstone, I actually been collaborating with Brother Malik, that we're gonna hopefully start series, because with our team of CPA tax lawyers, we do charitable remainder trust, charitable leave trusts, and private foundations, public foundations, and communal foundations. So inshallah, we can put a series so other nonprofits as well can benefit from their donors base, and try. Obviously, the donor would benefit too from maximizing any tax liability as well. So looking forward to setting that up, inshallah.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. If any last remarks that you guys have, please do share it with the community, and then we can conclude the program.
Okay, no, we're good. Good being with both of you.
All righty. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you so much for all of our viewers that are watching this program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.